And what is your personalized advice about nonprofit leadership right now? Not necessarily, I mean, it's okay to share links from other people and podcast episodes from other people and all that kind of
Right.
thing. But if you want to be considered the expert, the go-to executive coach for nonprofit leaders,
Mm-hmm.
they need to hear your voice too.
I have Instagram, I have Twitter, and it has that handle. Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So you own all the digital platforms using that. So my question now would be, if you own all of those things, or you have all those things, are you establishing yourself as a leader and an expert in this space? And if you aren't, that would be the next step. And I wouldn't wait for a website to be done, because a website can be really, really basic. The question really is, do people know that Vanessa Howell is an expert and executive coach for nonprofits? Are you messaging that in some way?
No, I'm not. Well, that was the other thing, was about branding that. I'm not exactly sure how to do that.
Okay, so
how do I do that?
All right, so you're getting the certification right now, right? The executive coaching certification, which teaches you the nuts and bolts of how to be an executive coach, right?
Yeah.
And that's great. I don't think it's required, but it's great that you have it. Obviously, finish it now that you started it. Yeah. But now it's letting people know that this is what you do, and you don't have to feel like you're not ready because you haven't finished a class, or because you haven't gotten whatever letters behind your name you need, or whatever. Like, we're having a coaching session right now. I ain't never been to a coaching certification class or anything. It's just how you can actually help people, right? Okay. And so if you've learned some things already in the grant course, in your executive coaching certification courses, start talking about those things. So what do nonprofit leaders need to know? And there's some things nonprofit leaders need to know right now in the midst of a pandemic. How can small nonprofits survive a pandemic when maybe giving is down, or maybe giving is up? I don't know. But that's the kind of thing it sounds like, as an executive coach, could help people think through, especially some of these smaller nonprofits, right? Because I'm sure their businesses have been impacted by what we're dealing with right now. Right. So what are ways you could start talking about these things? If you're comfortable doing it on social media, if you're using some other platform to communicate with people. And it doesn't just have to be reaching out to people in Des Moines, especially because your website, your social media platforms can communicate that same information, not just in Des Moines, but to whoever's following you. Right. Indeed. And that's something you could do now. Like, you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for anything. If you have ideas about this stuff now, do that now. And even if it's not revolving around the coronavirus pandemic, but just top suggestions for nonprofit leaders, start talking about those things right now.
And should I do that a LinkedIn page as well, you think? Or should I?
So my response to that would be, are you on my email newsletter list by chance?
I don't think so.
Okay, if you're not, if you're okay with it, I can add you to it.
Please do.
But this is my email that I sent out on Monday. It was literally about social media and what you should do with it. And I really it really was. So I really have two suggestions. So the first is, you don't have to do all of it just because you see everybody else doing all of it, right?
Right.
What you do is what works for you, number one. And then number two, where you think nonprofit leaders are. So if your target audience is these nonprofit leaders, where do you find those people? And if it's LinkedIn, great. If it's Instagram, if it's Twitter, if it's TikTok, who knows? but that's a question. Hey, TikTok is blowing up right now.
It really is.
So my question for you would be, with that group of people you want to reach, where are they? And if it's LinkedIn, great. If it's somewhere else, great, but do what works for you. And the second thing I would say, if you're going to implement social media as a strategy, is talk about how you can help folks, like add value to people. And what is your personalized advice about nonprofit leadership right now? Not necessarily, I mean, it's okay to share links from other people and podcast episodes from other people and all that kind of thing. But if you want to be considered the expert, the go-to executive coach for nonprofit leaders, they need to hear your voice too. So what can you start creating on your platforms that does reflect your voice, your suggestions, your coaching? Because what you want to give people is a little bit of a taste of what it would be like to work with you, right? And if they don't know you, then they're going to need to see that somewhere.